Hey everyone, this is the Coffee with a Geek program. It is October 2016. Crazy how the year flies by. But I have, as always, a really great guest with me, and I have Jennifer Casa-Todd. And Jennifer is a wife, mom, teacher, librarian at Cardinal Carter High School in Aurora, and your former literacy consultant at the York Catholic District School Board, and author of the book. We're going to talk about this. Social Leadia, not media, Leadia. And a little sidebar, you're a grad student, you're a food-loving, book-loving, ukulele player wannabe. That's awesome. I need to learn the ukulele. Don't we all need to? It's become like the popular instrument, I think.
I think so.
And beyond that, you love hanging out with your family, playing cards, hiking, enjoying curling, golfing, reading, and writing. Wow. Lots of fun stuff. So she's passionate about showing teachers and students how they can use technology and social media to make the world a better place. I love that line. Very nicely done. So Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy October. And I want to just start with kind of how I first came across your work. A buddy of mine, Mike Drezek, we were just talking about him, is a big fan of your work, and we're at the Canada Connect conference in Niagara Falls and said, you know, Andy, you've got to check out Jennifer's work and see her presentation. So that's where I met. Can you talk a little bit about maybe that Canada Connect presentation? Maybe that's a presentation you do. And it was, what I loved about it, it was pro-tech in kind of an empowering way. Is that what you were talking about? And how does that, let's start there. Talk about your presentation.
Sure. So that was my very first big presentation on a podium kind of thing. So I was super, super nervous. So the fact that you even took anything away from it is just amazing. But yes, my entire sort of raison d'etre is to sort of move us away from the very prevalent fear narrative that's going on in our schools. The whole, as soon as we put our kids online, there's going to be cyberbullying, there's going to be, you know, identity theft and all those horrible things, which we know are absolutely possible online. But I feel like we've sort of moved to the opposite end of the spectrum. Whenever we talk about digital citizenship, I feel like that's all we do, cyber safety. And I think it's really important, certainly in our schools, to ensure that our students are safe. But I also think that it's time for us to show kids what awesome things they can do online. And there are lots of kids, in my experience, that are doing this. They're leveraging social media for good. And I just feel like, and there are lots of teachers that are empowering their students to do this. And I just feel like people just need to know more about it. That's really me. I share the message wherever, however I can. Will have me. I will talk to them about it. And that's really the impetus for my book. It came as a result of me having an aha moment as a mom, as an educator, and really hoping to inspire people to change their ideas about the role of social media in education.
Is the first step with teachers, you know, I work with teachers a lot. It sounds like you work with teachers quite a bit. What's kind of those first steps to helping teachers maybe overcome that hurdle, or maybe parents for that matter as well?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question. I think it needs to come from all sides. So in my research, so I'm currently doing a master's in curriculum and technology at UOIT here in Oshawa, and it's online. And one of the courses I was very honored to be able to do is social media in education. And in that course, I did lots and lots of research on the topic. And I feel like, no, I know that the whole parents are not on board thing is not actually as true as we think, that the research doesn't actually bear that out, that 94%, I'm just thinking of one study in particular, Common Sense Media study, where 94% of parents were actually completely on board with technology and using it to transform education. They really were. So sometimes I think it's, you know, are we assuming versus do we really know? That's my first question. Are we looking at a very, very small minority of parents who are very strong advocates against this versus a whole bunch who aren't? And I think that's true for teachers. I think it's true for leaders as well. So we have, a growing number of educators who are on Twitter, for example, on social media, who are feeling the power of connectivity and what that has done. I know it's transformed my practice. And yet we haven't been able to make the move into the classroom yet. So I think it's teachers. I think it's educational leaders. How many educational leaders are actually online and recognizing the power that this could be? Students, it's about, there's a whole mass of them that only use social media, use technology to distract themselves, to entertain themselves. And yet there are all these others who are looking at these opportunities and going, hey, and parents who are mentoring their kids in order to help them do that. And so we have all these little pockets. It's like we talk about pockets of innovation. I definitely think there's pockets of this happening everywhere. So how do we mobilize? How do we start talking to each other in order to ensure that we all sort of go down a new path, one that hasn't really been forged yet by many, just a few, and just constantly bringing those conversations. That I think that's where we need to start. And I mean, there are great people starting this work before me. I don't profess to be the person who started all. In fact, a lot of what I talk about in the book is based on George Couros' work from 2013. So the definition of digital leadership, for example, using the vast reach of technology and social media to improve the lives, well-being, and circumstances of others, which I love, right? That is certainly something that has moved me, but I know it moves others too. So it's how do we move together in masses so that we can see change happening in our schools. That was a very long answer to your, to your question. You're on mute.
Oh, great, yes. So there we go. I did that in my last interview too. Following up on that, can you tell me about your own personal learning journey? Like what were kind of the sparks that fired you from early on? I mean, I know when I started teaching, I never imagined myself being, so tech driven at this point. Can you just talk about how you started with tech in your personal kind of learning journey?
Sure. I certainly, I think, have the same feeling. It's funny. So I began teaching English a long time ago. I've taught many, many subjects, English, special education, religion, co-op, ESL, you name it, and loved everything about literature and having literature come alive for students. So what's always driven me has been kids and getting them passionate about literature and whatnot. And so before I left the classroom to be a literacy consultant, I did two things that were kind of out of my comfort zone. But I was always one of those, when we talk about leadership, I was always one of those leaders without a title. Like I would be the one who would coordinate the courses, or I would be the one to take on whatever had to be done, because I just loved to do it. And I loved to teach. And then in the year before I went to the literacy consultant position, I did two things. The first thing is, and I talk about this in the book, that we were studying Romeo and Juliet. My kids were all on Facebook at the time. This was probably 9 years ago when they were all on Facebook. And I said, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if if everybody was like a character on you created a Facebook profile for one of the characters in Romeo and Juliet, and then you responded to each other in role, and then you talked about what music they would like and who would be their friends, because I thought that would give me a lot of information about if they really knew the play. And then when I realized that Facebook was blocked, I was like, ooh, but we went on anyway. And then I started blogging. So I was on Twitter professionally, and people were talking about this blogging thing. And so I went into my grade 9 class and I'm like, hey guys, we're gonna blog now. And they're like, what are you talking about, miss? And so it was quite funny, because it was all trial and error, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it was just fun to engage in that platform with them. We were all co-learners together. And I remember after I was a literacy consultant, going back, and the kids said, you do say what now, miss? You help teachers with technology in the classroom, but you're a complete moron. Like, no disrespect intended. I'm like, I know, right? But that happened, right? So I'm in this literacy consultant role, recognizing that literacy is so much more than just reading and writing. And then soon after, in a role where I'm helping to roll out our Google Apps for Education to a whole system, 108 schools. And I'm on Twitter learning stuff as I go and bringing those ideas in. So that's really where it all started. When people ask me, I say Twitter has transformed my practice, because at the time where I didn't know what I was doing and I needed to provide professional learning opportunities for teachers, I just learned it from the amazing, generous people that are part of my PLN. Tara Martin calls it your PLF now, my personal learning family. And that's really where it all happened. And I would say I wouldn't have written a book if it weren't for Twitter. I mean, certainly George, who is a mentor and friend of mine now, we met on Twitter, and do you know what I mean? And then continued forward. Many of the kids I met and showcase in the book, as well as the teachers I showcase in the book, many of them I just know virtually. I'm meeting them now. So that's really how I came to be. And then the teacher librarian position, I mean, a couple of years ago, I was at the district level for 6 years, loved it, loved working with K-12, really, 7 to 12 in the literacy role, and then K-12 in the 21C role. Loved every minute of it, but desperately missed being in a school. I really did. So I thought, a teacher librarian, woot to all of us, does a great deal of what I was doing in that role, right? It's literacy support, but it's also technology support, it's assessment, it's co-planning, co-teaching, it's all of those things. But now I'm a DECA advisor, and I have my own book club and my own coding club, and I get to be on the ski club and do all those geeky things that I really missed when I was at the district. So I come to where I am. I feel like every decision I made was the absolute right decision for me, even though some days I wondered what I was doing, either in the role or back at a school. What am I doing? But it always comes back to being passionate about kids and learning. I'm doing my master's. My kids think I'm crazy. Mom, oh my gosh, when I have as much homework as they do, if not more. It's about learning, and I've never stopped learning. And I think that's why I am where I am.
That tied in kind of a lot of the threads of our conversation is just that, I guess, passion to learn and then connecting with others. And you mentioned Twitter, and I think probably, and that's really how I find a lot of the people that I interview. It's basically through my Twitter feed and things that people are posting out. So I would definitely agree with that, with your assessment of Twitter being really one of those great places to get great stuff. I mean, I think it gets a bad name because there's so much, other stuff out there in the entertainment and the politics and all that, which can be overwhelming and a little crazy as far as Twitter goes. But I think that's why teachers shy away. I often ask teachers in my workshops how many people are, Twitter users, and if a room full of 20, I may get two hands reluctantly. But it's convincing teachers that it's really safe to dig into Twitter, and it's really just who you follow. And if you follow great people, you get great stuff. So
absolutely. And you don't know what you don't know. Like many of the teachers with whom I connect, they just it's like the kids. So many of the kids only see social media as either a distraction if you're an academic student or a student in IB, because I teach at an IB school, or they look at it as, a place where I'm just going to entertain myself. I need a brain break from this chemistry test, this real life thing that I'm doing, and then I'm just going to distract myself. And it's too bad that not enough people know that it's about who you follow, as you suggested. And one of the lines that sticks out to me from my studies, it's from Henry Jenkins, who's a scholar, and he wrote a book with Mimi Ito and Dana Boyd. And they talk about, I might have to look at it here, they talk about the fact that adults are shutting down opportunities that are meaningful for young people out of a moral panic response to technological and cultural change. And that really sticks with me, because so many of our kids are there, but they don't know how to leverage it necessarily. And the kids who are leveraging it, either because they figured it out or they have a caring adult mentor in their lives, they have advantages. Like I know it sounds strange, but like one of the students I focus on in the book, Aiden Aird, who's a fantastic kid, just graduated. He talks about the fact that he got a scholarship as a result of a Twitter connection. Now, do I know a ton of really great kids who would probably get a scholarship? Yes. But a Twitter connection, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I do think that in 2017, we at least need to talk about how we need to be leveraging social media.
You know, the other thing you mentioned when you're talking about your journey is just the transformation of the librarian media specialist.
Mm-hmm.
How, you know, and I've come across this in my own, you know, experiences, is that, you know, the librarians have been the first, you know, leaders, I think, in ed tech, because they've just taken off with it. And I guess maybe I was thinking, what are they the leaders, I guess, in the ed tech movement? Would you say?
That's a really great question. I know that we keep talking about fake news, but ever since the dawn of time, teacher librarians have been helping students to figure out what's credible and not credible sources, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's too bad that there are so many districts that have actually done away with teacher librarians, who are not looking at them as the leaders in this initiative. I know I'm very proud to say that in our district initiative, we had created teams from each of the schools, 108 schools at our board, and it consisted of an administrator, a teacher librarian, a special education teacher, and a classroom teacher. That was our original goal, and we certainly invested time and effort in ensuring that our teacher librarians recognized that we did see them as leaders in that role. And I think I think that the districts who have embraced that really have gone far, because there are such incredible resources in schools. In our district, we don't have like digital resource teachers or tech coaches. I almost see it's like the tech coach, but you have all that research background too. So you know exactly what tool to use at the right time, but you also sort of know where to go to navigate the information. Not that tech coaches don't know that, but I think teacher librarians certainly bring that to the table.
So tell me about your book. I'm really excited. It's hot off the presses. It's called Social Leadia. And while you're talking about it, I'll bring up your Facebook page. Hey, there it is.
Perfect.
So tell me about kind of how it started, what it's about. You've already kind of given us a few teasers, but chat and I'll bring it up on the screen.
Sounds good. Well, first I'll have to say, like, there's this big thing about how great DBC books feel, that we actually have a DBC Facebook club because they feel so soft. So the first book we got, both my girls had said, "Oh, it's so soft," and they sent me a picture of the book. Where did it come from? It literally it was a combination of things. So the book highlights my experiences in the classroom and as a literacy consultant, but also as a mom. So the impetus for it was that my daughter was actually asked in an interview, "What social media are you on? And what will I learn about you if I go there?" And that threw me for such a loop. Because like I said, I was living this life where I really was leveraging social media for my own connections, but I had never encouraged my daughter to do so. I was always so frightened. So rather than mentoring her online, I made sure that she wasn't online. And so I think that's really where it came from. And then, so George introduced me to a publisher, and I remember saying, "Hi." And then all of this came out, that this is what I really thought we needed to do, that there were these great teachers and these amazing students, and we needed to highlight them. And so that's what the book is. It basically, what I'm very proud of is that it has student voices. So each chapter is framed by a student vignette, because I think it's important. We talk about student voice all the time, but do we really listen to or know what students are doing online? Because we kind of make a lot of assumptions sometimes about what they do online. And so talking to them has been fascinating for me. And so I really wanted to share their voices in the book. And then I share examples of teachers, more examples than you can imagine, of how to leverage social media, all kinds of social media, not just what we traditionally call social media, but basically Dana Boyd talks about social media as platforms where we create and share our own content, which is very much aligned with what we want to do in education, right? So, so it's chock full of those examples. It has discussion questions. It really is, though, a snapshot in time, in that it's about social media in 2017. Those conversations are always evolving and always changing, but it's a really good starting point. And so I've also created a website with complimentary resources, socialleadia.org, where people can continue conversations. I know I have Flipgrid videos there. You know, I constantly update resources as I find them. I meet new kids and I go, oh, I wish I could have, you know, had you in the book, but of course you have to have a deadline at some point. But certainly those students are there. That, you know, there's a hyperlink to all these students. I think it's so important. I'm not sure who said you can't be what you can't see. But if all we see online, all our kids see online when they look at social media is really poor behavior, I think that's what we're going to end up seeing there. So I love the fact that there really are so many students who are such positive role models that our kids can start to look at, that teachers can start to look at, and they're all in the book.
Wow, that's really great that I love what you originally said, and that you're sharing that student voice. And I find that's a challenge as a tech integrator is, you know, when you try to convince teachers to do a different technology, you really want to like show them how a student sees it. So I think that book does a great service in giving that voice for students. So I love that concept.
Thank you. I think it's interesting. So it didn't happen in time for the book, but there was a teacher in my class who was like, I want to do something authentic, like an art portfolio of some sort. You know, there's a student in my class who has something like this. I said, oh, well, do we want to include the student in the planning, like, so we can talk about this? And she said, okay, sure. It was amazing. Like, I wish I had been able to include it in the book, but I did blog about it. And the student used Tumblr. And when I asked her, you know, how do we ensure that we're going to be safe here and we're not seeing inappropriate content, she showed us where this, you know, the button for safety was. But what I found fascinating was when I asked her why Tumblr, why not, you know, a Google site or a Wix or whatever the case may be, right? Because I have a repertoire. I would never have gone to Tumblr ever in my life. And she said, you know, Miss, what I really like about Tumblr is that when I'm reposting artwork, which is what this was, it actually gives credit to the original artist. And I think that's really important in art, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. And it never even occurred to me. So I think we do need to be more open to not to say that, you know, we know our curriculum. That teacher and I worked on the curriculum expectations. We designed down, right? But having that student's voice there really lent such authenticity. And then the best part was, so I supported her initially, but then she always had this student in her class who could help troubleshoot. Right? Because let's face it, there aren't as many tech coaches, teacher librarians as there could or should be in a class. We're not enough for everybody. So why not use some of our students' knowledge in some ways? You know, they're not totally knowledgeable about everything, but why not use some of them when we can?
It's a great way to look at it. And you kind of, through our conversation, you kind of answered my last question, which was, kind of use your crystal ball and envision school in the future. Anything you want to kind of add on that? What do you see as far as what do you want to see like in 5-10 years as far as education and technology?
I almost wish that in 5 or 10 years we stop talking about technology. I know initially in the book I say, you know, I wish we could be at a point where we're not talking about digital citizenship and digital leadership. We're just talking about citizenship and leadership. And I think more and more adults, hopefully, are coming to understand that where for us it was an analog world versus an online world. For students, that's increasingly enmeshed. So when we're having conversations about, what does it mean to lead and to be a good person, that doesn't mean just online or offline. It means sort of a combination of both. And that when I'm doing good in the world, or I'm learning and sharing my learning, or supporting an important cause, that there is no distinction between online and offline, that it is what it is. And it's all about learning, or it's all about change or empowering others. We can actually take away that notion of technology integration or something like that.
It would be nice to walk away from that.
Wouldn't it?
So speaking of that, now it's time for the Speed Geek questions. I know this is the toughest.
I'm going to be so bad. I'm going to be so bad at them.
No, there is no good or bad. It's just for fun. So
there's a wheel. Wow.
So you get
okay.
3 questions. And again, they're meant to be short, lively, and hopefully fun. So
all right. Let's do it.
Here we go. What's your favorite way to unplug from technology?
Okay, weirdness, I know, but our family is addicted to a card game called Canasta. And after dinner every night, we're like, okay, Canasta, everybody. So we sit around the table and play Canasta as a family. And I love it. I love everything about it. I love the mental math that I have to do, but I love the strategy, and I love just being at the table with my kids.
Sounds fun. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay, question number 2. What's your favorite social network?
Oh, this is hard. So Twitter is my first love, absolutely. But honestly, I am really coming to appreciate Facebook. There's a couple of amazing groups I'm part of, and Voxer. I have an amazing support network. And I'm going to say Voxer just because last year I had a concussion, and I was basically off work on a modified schedule for almost 10 months. It was horrible. And my Voxer family, because I listened to them, so they really helped take me out of the darkness. I would say Voxer for now, but Twitter and Facebook very, very close. And Instagram, I like them all.
Yeah, are you part of the EduMatch group in Voxer?
I am. Yes,
yeah.
EduMatch family.
Yeah, Sarah Thomas does a great job with that. I interviewed her, I think maybe last year or so. But
yeah, she's incredible. We now have 2 rooms because there are so many people, which is awesome.
It's so lively in there that you're just, it's nice though, because it's focused,
And there's something to me, you can tell, I just get easily impassioned by things. There's something about listening to someone's voice, either because they're upset or they're completely excited or they're annoyed or whatever the case may be. It's a different kind of connection when you're actually hearing somebody, I think.
True. Okay, last question.
Oh, wait, I have to say, I'm in a group of Snapchat where we sing karaoke, and that's so fun too. Oh, I start. Harry Potter, without a doubt.
All right.
Yeah, we have the absolute best. Oh, these are supposed to be fast. We have a puzzle in my library right now. It's the Marauders map. And I've got kids who come in every second they can to finish this 1,000-piece puzzle. It's the coolest thing ever. So they're like, Miss, are we going to frame it afterwards? And one of my favorite teachers on staff has a whole Harry Potter room. And my daughter's addicted to it. I love it, love it.
Do you find kids are still reading Harry Potter? Is it as popular as ever? Or?
We were just talking about it. There's like a new generation of kids reading it, which is very cool.
Yeah, it really was. I just remember living through the Harry Potter phase. I was a 5th grade teacher at the time when it first came on board, and it really was one of those really cultural changes that kids were grabbing the books. And every new book she published, people were waiting for it, and there was such an excitement, especially for young kids. So I hope to see that. I love to see when that catches fire like that.
Me too.
All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much, and keep up the great work. I'll be following you on Twitter and your new book, and good luck with the book. It's a really great, looks like it's a great read, and I can't wait to dig into it.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.